Hey everybody, Reed Schlegel here, and today I'm using my favorite toned Strathmore paper. But today, instead of my usual tan, we're using the Strathmore Tone Blue Mixed Media paper. it's a heavier weight, so we're not going to need a burner sheet today. We can just draw right on it and don't have to worry about ruining the surface beneath it. So for this sketch, we're actually going to change it up a little bit and try some ideation sketching before we get to the final design. So you can see here we're doing some type of stilt structure, which is going to be off the side of a hill and has some type of hexagonal shape. You see the top one is tapering in, as you go down, tapers out, and then you're seeing some type of window structure on the side and some type of ribbing. But this is how we usually like to work, where I'll start with a base idea and then I'll start figuring out ideas as I go and let them evolve and influence each other, so that way we eventually get to a form which is new and unique and not the first thing that we thought of. But now as I'm getting to a form that starts looking pretty nice, this interesting diamond shape that's split at the top with the legs in the bottom, and it starts small in the back as you walk in and gets more grandiose as you go into the structure and out towards this large window, which would look out into the wilderness. In my mind, you start figuring out what I'm intending. But once we have this nice underlay sketch of all these ideation ideas, we can start figuring out the actual final design and making it to a nice composition. So this composition right now is going to have the largest piece on the right, which is going to make it easy to see this is my final idea. And like all of my sketches, we're going to start out with a nice underlay sketch with a nice C3 Copic marker. Now this marker sketch is something that we can change as we go. It's something we can be super concerned about, because right now we're going to go back with some thin pen and use our thin, medium, thick line weight to give this sketch some life. So right now I'm using a ruler and my favorite hybrid Technica 05 pen just to give some of the light base line work. Now you can see I'm doing the line work in front. That is actually the longest lines first, because these are the lines that need to be considered most, because if you get something on top of them, it looks like it's going through it, and we want to make sure that everything in the front is the objects that are going to be in the foreground and are not interrupted. So once the base lines are done, I'm going to go and start putting in all the detail lines. So now we're putting in the struts that are behind these pieces, the base pieces, all of the railings, and all the different parts and components that make this concept interesting and unique. And you can see now we're going to the top and using our thin line weight to once again add in the glass top, the little recessed area in the front where you can go out and sit and have a chair and maybe have your morning breakfast, and then starting to put in other things like this nice little ladder that goes down to the lower level, which could have some storage, or it's a nice place to have a dinner party, or something fun that you can do that's not actually enclosed in this upper volume. But once we have this down, we're going to start going through and really thinking through what else has thickness to it. So the glass on top actually is not planar. It has a thickness. So we're going to add a secondary line to every single part where you can see through that actual glass plane. And now we're going to go and add the smaller details of the actual ribs for the railing. We're going to put this nice rib texture on the side of the building, which would be some type of plate metal with folds in it. I imagine this being in a more snowy environment, so it's one that you want to have a nice pitched roof with ribs. That way the snow falls off and doesn't actually crush you inside of it. And then we're going to go underneath and have my signature wood. I always have some type of organic materials in all of my drawings and my architectural concepts. So for this one, once we have the main drawing done and we're figuring out exactly how we're going to lay it out, we're going to go down and do a nice side orthographic view. Orthographic views are ones that are perfect to explain all the things that you can't get in your original perspective sketch. And these are great because they're nice and quick and you can get a lot for a very quick bang for your buck. But if you've taken any of my classes online already, you can know that I'm very big about line weight. So once we have our thin lines down, we're going to go and figure out any surface that you cannot see the edge that makes that surface connect to the other one. What that means is if you have two edges together and you can see them, that's a thin line. If you cannot see where that edge actually comes into contact with the next one, that is going to be a thick line. Check my other YouTube videos to find out a more in-depth video on this. But you can see how now we're getting some more dynamicness, and we're actually filling in this with a little bit of weight, which is going to make it easier to tell what's happening from each surface transition. But the way I start my sketches, like we just did, is basically making a large coloring book. So this large coloring book is going to allow us to have a really clear, defined area in which we can put all of our gray marker and eventually everything else we're going to put into this sketch. So you can see I'm starting with a C7. I started with a Copic traditional first, and then I went to a wide to fill in the area a little more evenly. And then I'm going to a warm C5 on the, warm gray 5 on the bottom. And then I'm going to go and start adding it anywhere else that I don't actually have something to find so far. So right now that could be the shadow underneath the building itself. And once that's figured out, I'm going to start doing some environmental things. I really like having things that are organic, especially when my sketches are so hard and rigid and geometric. So for this one, we're going to use an almost dead C3 wide marker to give that kind of funky, fuzzy texture on the ground that makes it look like it's imperfect, like it's dirt and rocks. And as you can see here, we kind of skipped ahead because my camera actually ran out of memory. Sorry for that. I'll do another video on this next. But basically, this is the exact same thing I do for any of my drawings. We're going to do a lot of texturing, a lot of layering with darks in the center, and it fades out to the outside for the shadow under this building, doing lots of grays mixed with browns and greens for dirt and grass, and then going into under the building and putting some details like some actual wood grain, and then going up into the actual side paneling with the ribs and giving a little bit of shadowing. So this one I picked an easy light source where it's basically from top down. So this would be about high noon. So everything is going to be pretty even. It's either dark on the bottom and light on the sides. But any time of day you're going to have highlights, and I always like to exaggerate my highlights. So in this drawing, we're using a Sakura Jelly Roll pen to give our nice high contrast lights on the edges of all of our corners and everything, like we have on the ridges and the side. And then we're going through a little bit of Prismacolor Very-Thin pencil to give a little more texture, like you can see we're doing here in the glass, and we're doing a little bit on the sides of the building itself as well. And we're also giving a little bit of a yellow highlight on the inside just to show there's something happening inside and people live there. You can see, conversely to the white Very-Thin pencil, we're using a black Very-Thin pencil on the bottom, just so that we can give a little more depth and have it feel a little bit more like it's actually sitting in space. And finally, to make it sit really in space, I'm going to take a little bit of a fat, wide blue marker and put that around the bottom just to make it feel like there's some skyline behind it, and a little bit of white on the top just to make it feel like there's a little bit extra highlight, like there's some type of sky, kind of implying there's clouds behind it. So with this, when it's all done, go and add a little more contrast, a little more detail, add a little bit of a base color to our orthographic sketch, clean everything up, and basically we're ready to put in some annotations. So no sketch is finished with annotation. Annotation is something you always need to tell the reader what is actually going on here if you're not there to speak about it. And always, always, always name your sketches. This one I named the Diamond in the Rough House. I like that name because it's a Scandinavian way to say house. And here it is, a nice sketch page where you can see my initial idea all the way down to the final idea, and then a nice, beautiful, rendered out version of my internal intention of what I want this to be. So it's something that you can see, and you can see it all in one nice sketch page. So everyone, thank you for checking this out. Hope this is helpful, and please check back for my grass tutorial next time. Bye.